He was unjustly arrested, but when he returned home he realized it was a blessing in disguise. Samuel Miller walked down the dirt road with a cloth bag in his hands, carrying everything he owned in the world. After 2 years and 4 months behind bars, the 46-year-old man finally had his freedom back, but the bitter taste of injustice still burned in his throat like bile. With every step toward what was once his home, his legs trembled not from exhaustion, but from an anxiety that grew like a storm in his chest. Martha had promised to wait for him. In the few letters he received in prison, his wife of 15 years swore eternal love and said that Chloe, his adopted daughter, missed her father terribly. But the letters had stopped coming over a year ago. When he finally spotted the place where his small property used to be, Samuel felt his legs go weak. Where his simple wooden house and the little corral he had built with his own hands once stood, there was now only a mountain of dirt, rocks and rubble. A landslide had swallowed everything it had taken him decades to build. He stood there, hands trembling as he held the bag, trying to process what he saw. The hillside had collapsed onto his property, burying everything. Pieces of red roof tiles and rotten wood poked out of the dry mud like broken bones from a giant animal. "My God in heaven," he muttered, dropping the bag to the ground. Then he heard footsteps approaching from behind. He turned around, expecting to see Martha running toward him, but it was Silas, the nearest neighbor, with an embarrassed look on his dark, wrinkled face. "Samuel," said the older man, taking off his straw hat, "I thought you'd take longer to get back." "What happened here, Silas? Where's my wife? Where's Chloe?" The neighbor looked down, nervously fiddling with the hat in his calloused hands. "Well, son, this happened about 8 months ago. Heavy rain that lasted 5 days straight. The ground couldn't hold and it all came down one night. Your Martha and the girl were sleeping when the noise started." Samuel felt his heart stop for a moment. Are they okay? Please tell me they're okay." "They're alive, thank God. They managed to get out in time. But they lost everything, Samuel. Everything." "Where are they now?" Silas hesitated, as if the words were glass in his mouth. "They're living with Arthur Harrison over on the other side of the valley." Samuel knew Arthur. A single man, owner of a prosperous farm, a few years younger than him. He had always been kind to Martha when they met in town on Sundays, maybe too kind. "All right, I'll go get them. It must have been hard for Martha, losing the house and not hearing from me properly." Silas scratched his grey head, visibly uncomfortable. "Samuel, I need to tell you something. Your Martha, she married Arthur 3 months ago." The words hit Samuel like a lightning bolt. He staggered back, feeling the world spin around him. "What do you mean, married? She's my wife. The priest said you had died in that prison, that you'd never come back. And she was in need with the girl, nowhere to live, no money. Arthur offered to help and—" "Lies!" shouted Samuel, fists clenched. "Damn lies! I sent a letter. I told her I was getting out. How could she believe I was dead?" Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us beginners. Now continuing. Silas stepped back a few paces, startled by Samuel's reaction. "Calm down, son. I know it's hard to accept, but her situation was really tough. A woman alone with a teenage girl, no house, no money. She wasn't alone. She had me. She should have waited for me to come back. But everyone thought you weren't coming back, Samuel. After that whole stolen cattle business, I didn't steal any cattle," Samuel shouted, tears of anger starting to run down his bearded face. "You all know that. You've known me since I was a kid." "I always believed you were innocent," said Silas quietly. But there was the evidence, Bento's word. Samuel stopped breathing for a moment. A terrible connection began to form in his mind. Whose word? Bento's. He was the one who supposedly saw you stealing Rancher Thompson's cattle. He's the one who called the authorities. The world seemed to fall apart for the second time that day. Arthur Harrison, the same man who now slept in the bed that should have been his, who now called Chloe his daughter, who now received the affection that should have been his, was the one who had put him behind bars. "That bastard," Samuel muttered, his voice choked. "That scumbag set the whole thing up." "Samuel, You can't talk like that. Arthur is a respected man around here. He took good care of your family when you couldn't. Took care? Samuel was beside himself. He destroyed my life. He put me in jail so he could steal my wife. Look, I understand your anger, but I can't let you badmouth Arthur in front of me. He was good to your family. At that moment, Samuel realized he had nothing left in that place. Not a home, not a family, not friends. Everyone had chosen to believe the convenient version, the version that didn't force them to face the uncomfortable truth. He picked up his bag from the floor and started to walk away, ignoring Silas's calls. He needed to see Martha with his own eyes. He needed to hear from her mouth what had really happened. The walk to Arthur's farm seemed endless. With every step, Samuel relived the last moments before his arrest. He remembered Martha kissing him on the forehead that fateful morning, saying she was going to prepare his favorite meal for dinner. He remembered Chloe, then 15, asking for help with a math lesson. He never had dinner or a math lesson again. That afternoon, 3 men showed up at his door with an arrest warrant. Rancher Thompson's cattle had disappeared, and a witness had seen him loading the cattle one early morning. Arthur's farm appeared on the horizon like an affront. It was big, prosperous, with a brick house painted white and a corral full of healthy cattle. Everything Samuel had always dreamed of having, but never achieved through honest work. When he approached the porch, he could see movement behind the window, a female figure in the kitchen, preparing something on the stove. His heart raced. It was Martha. He banged on the door hard, feeling his hand tremble against the wood. "Martha! Martha, open the door! It's me, Samuel!" The noise from the kitchen stopped abruptly. Footsteps approached the door, hesitantly. "Samuel?" came a muffled, incredulous voice. "This can't be true. Open the door, woman, it's really me." The door slowly opened, revealing the face he had dreamed of seeing every day for the past 2 years. Martha looked older, with a few grey streaks in her brown hair, but she was still the woman he had fallen in love with years ago. She stared at him as if she was seeing a ghost. "Samuel, you're alive." "Of course I'm alive. Why did you think I had died?" Martha lowered her eyes, unable to meet his gaze. "A letter came. A man came here and said that something bad had happened at the prison." "What man?" I don't remember exactly. I was so desperate. It was Arthur, wasn't it? The same bastard who lied about me." Tears began to roll down her face. "Samuel, you have to understand I was left alone, without a home, without money. Chloe needed to study, I needed to work. And marrying him was the only solution. He offered me help, said he'd take care of us like family. I thought you were never coming back. You didn't think, Martha. You chose to believe the most convenient lie." At that moment, heavy footsteps approached the door. Arthur Harrison appeared behind Martha, placing his hand possessively on her shoulder. He was a tall, strong man, about 40 years old with a well-trimmed beard. Everything about him breathed prosperity and confidence. "So it's true," said Arthur, in a calm voice that deeply irritated Samuel. "You came back. Surprised, you scoundrel." "Watch your tongue, Samuel. You're in my house near my wife." "Your wife? She's my wife." "Was. Now she's mine, legally and before God. And she's happy like this." Samuel looked at Martha, searching for any signs of contradiction on her face, but she just lowered her head, silently confirming Arthur's words. "Martha, look me in the eye and tell me you're happy with him." She slowly raised her face, tears streaming down her cheeks. I am happy, Samuel. Arthur gave me security, a good home, food on the table every day. Chloe can study at a better school. And love. Did everything we built together all those years mean nothing?" Martha hesitated, and for a moment Samuel saw a glimpse of the woman he once knew. But Arthur squeezed her shoulder tighter, like a silent reminder. "Love doesn't pay the bills, Samuel. It doesn't pay for school, it doesn't pay for a doctor when you get sick." "Where's Chloe?" "I want to talk to my daughter." "She's not your daughter anymore," Arthur interjected. "I adopted her legally, now she calls me Dad." Samuel felt as if his heart had been ripped from his chest. "She might not be my blood, but I raised that girl since she was 5. I taught her to ride a bike, helped with homework, took care of her when she was sick. And now I do that, Arthur said coldly. She's at a stage in life where she needs stability, not chaos. I want to talk to her. Not today, Martha said quickly. She's still processing that you're back. She needs time. Samuel realized he was losing a battle he didn't even know was being fought. He stepped back a few paces, feeling smaller than he had ever felt, even in prison. You two took everything from me. Everything. My freedom, my family, my dignity. Nobody took anything from you, Arthur replied. You lost it all on your own when you decided to steal Rancher Thompson's cattle. I didn't steal anything, and you know that better than anyone because you're the one who stole it. Arthur stepped forward, fists clenched. Watch what you say, ex-con. Defamation is a crime. Ex-con? Ex-con? You put me in there with lies. Prove it. Those two words landed like a hammer. Samuel realized he had no way to prove anything. He had no witnesses, no evidence. He only had his word against that of a respected man in the community. You planned everything, didn't you? Samuel said, with a bitterness that stung his throat. You stole the cattle, pinned it on me, spread the word that I died in prison and took my family. You're delusional. 2 years in jail messed with your head. Samuel, please, Martha begged. Don't make this harder than it already is. Try to rebuild your life somewhere else. There's nothing left for you here. The coldness in those words was the final blow. The woman who swore to love him in joy and in sorrow, in health and in sickness, was driving him away like a stray dog. I'll leave, Samuel said, his voice breaking. But one day the truth will come out, and when it does, you'll remember this conversation. He turned and began to walk away, but stopped when Arthur shouted at his back, If you show up here again causing trouble, I'll call the authorities. An ex-convict threatening an honest family won't be tolerated. Samuel kept walking without looking back, each step hurting like he was stepping on glass. When he finally got out of the ranch's reach, he collapsed to his knees on the road, sobbing like he hadn't since he was a kid. Reality hit him full force. He was all alone in the world. No home, no family, no money, no friends. He was a 46-year-old man who had to start from scratch, still carrying the mark of an ex-convict on his back. He walked aimlessly for hours until the darkness of night forced him to look for shelter. He found a small abandoned building by the side of the road, probably an old bus stop, and there he spent his first night of freedom, lying on wet cardboard, listening to the cold wind whistle through the cracks. The next morning, he was woken up by a man's rough voice. Hey, bum, get out of there. Samuel opened his eyes and saw a middle-aged man, dressed in work clothes, holding a hoe like it was a weapon. Take it easy, buddy. I'm not hurting anyone. I don't want any loafers on my property. Get lost. Please, I just need a place to... I said, get out! Before I call the cops! Samuel gathered his belongings and left, realizing his reputation had already spread. In small towns, news travels fast, especially bad news. He walked to the town center, where some people recognized him and crossed to the other side of the street. Others just stared at him suspiciously, whispering among themselves. He went into the only bar in town, hoping to at least get a coffee and maybe some information about work. We don't serve your kind here, the owner said before he could even speak. I just want a coffee and I'll pay for it. I've got nothing for you. Get out of my sight. Mr. Marvin, please. You've known me since I was a kid. You know I'm not a thief. I don't know anything. All I know is you stole Rancher Thompson's cattle and got locked up for it. Now get lost before I lose my patience. Samuel left the bar feeling the weight of judgmental stares. He realized there was no place for him in that community. Everyone had already chosen which version to believe. That's when he remembered his older sister, Abigail. She lived a 2-hour walk away, on a small property with her husband. Maybe she was his only hope. The walk was long and painful, both from his bare feet and the humiliation he carried on his shoulders. When he finally reached Abigail's house, she was in the yard hanging clothes on the line. Jesus Christ, she shouted when she saw him. Samuel? But how? Hey, sis, can you get me a glass of water? Abigail dropped the clothes and ran to hug him, crying. "My dear brother, I thought I'd never see you again. They said you had... that something bad happened to you in prison." "Who said that?" "Arthur Harrison came by a few months ago, said he'd gotten news about you, that you couldn't handle being locked up and had done something stupid." Anger boiled again in Samuel's chest. Harrison had been meticulous, spreading the lie about his supposed death to everyone who might question his rushed marriage to Martha. "That bastard lied, Abigail. He lied about everything." "But you're here. You're alive. Thank God." "I am, but I've got nothing left. No home, no family, no job. I came to ask if you can put me up for a few days until I get myself together." "Of course you can. You're my brother. Come in, eat something. You're so thin." Abigail led him into the simple but cozy house. Her husband, Gerald, was at the table drinking coffee. When he saw Samuel, he almost dropped his cup. "Damn, Samuel, I thought you'd... died?" "Yeah, everyone thought that. Real convenient for certain people." Abigail placed a plate of food in front of him, and Samuel realized how hungry he was. He hadn't had a decent meal in days. "Tell me what happened," his sister asked, sitting down beside him. Samuel told the whole story, from the false accusation to the traumatic encounter at Arthur's ranch. Abigail cried as she listened, shaking her head in disbelief. "I always thought it was strange," she said when he finished. "Martha coming here saying you had died, but without showing any documents, any official proof, and then soon after showing up married to Arthur. You were suspicious." "I was, but what could I do? If you had really died and I questioned it, it would have seemed like I was being mean to a widow. That's his move, using our own upbringing against us." Gerald, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "Samuel, I always believed you were innocent. That accusation didn't make sense. You were never one to take what isn't yours. Thanks, brother-in-law, at least someone believes in me." "But it's going to be hard to start over around here," Gerald continued. "People have already made up their minds about you, and Arthur has a lot of influence in the area. I know, but I'm not leaving here until I prove my innocence and get my daughter back." "Chloe isn't your blood," Abigail reminded him gently. "Maybe it's better to leave her alone. She may not have my blood, but she has my heart. I raised that girl, taught her to be a decent person. I can't abandon her now. And if she doesn't want anything to do with you anymore, teenagers at that age are easily swayed. If they told her you're a criminal, I have to try. I need at least for her to know the truth." That night, Samuel slept on a mattress on the floor in the back room. For the first time in years, he slept peacefully, knowing he was in a safe place. The next morning, Gerald woke him up early. "Samuel, I need to talk to you." "I had an idea during the night." They went out to the backyard, where Gerald began to explain. "Look, I have a friend in town, Mr. Sebastian. He owns a small mechanic shop and always complains he can't find a reliable helper. If you want, I can talk to him." "Do you think he'd give work to an ex-convict?" "Mr. Sebastian is a good guy. If I explain the situation, he might give you a chance. I'll take any honest work. I need to save up money and prove I've turned my life around." "Then let's go there today." Mr. Sebastian's shop was on a dirt road on the outskirts of the nearest big city. It was a simple place, with old cars scattered around the yard and tools hanging on the walls. Mr. Sebastian was a fat man, about 60 years old, with his hands permanently stained with grease. He listened to Gerald's explanation in silence, sizing up Samuel with experienced eyes. "Do you know anything about mechanics?" he asked bluntly. "I know the basics. I always took care of my old pickup and helped neighbors with simple problems." "And you don't mind working hard for little pay?" "I don't mind at all. I just need an honest opportunity." Mr. Sebastian scratched his graying beard, thoughtful. "Look, I'll give you a chance, Carl. But if there's any trouble, any problem at all, you're out that same day, understand?" "I understand. Don't worry, you won't regret it. The daily rate is small, but lunch is included, and if you prove yourself, I can increase it over time." Samuel almost wept with relief. Finally, someone was willing to give him a chance to start over. The work was hard, but Samuel threw himself into it body and soul. He arrived early, left late, and quickly showed he had a knack for mechanics. Mr. Sebastian realized he had gained a dedicated employee. "You learn fast," the boss said after a week. "And the customers like you. That's rare these days. I'm grateful for the opportunity, Mr. Sebastian. I won't let you down. And that story about the cattle theft? It was a setup. One day I'll prove it." Mr. Sebastian nodded, seeming to believe him. "Look, it's none of my business. But if I were you, I'd stay away from that Arthur Harrison. He's got a reputation for being sneaky. Do you know him?" "I know him by sight. He's brought his car here for repairs a few times. I always thought he was a little too perfect, you know. People who are too perfect give me the creeps." "Why?" "Life experience. A man who never makes a mistake, never stumbles, never has a problem. Either he's a saint or he's real good at hiding his dirt." Those words stuck in Samuel Miller's head. Maybe there were other people who suspected Arthur, but they were afraid to speak up. After a month working at the mechanic shop, Samuel had saved a little money and started to regain his self-esteem. He decided it was time to try talking to Chloe. He found out she went to a private school in the city, paid for by Arthur. Every day a car picked her up and dropped her off, but sometimes she stayed for extracurricular activities and took the bus home. Samuel waited at the bus stop one afternoon until he saw her get off. Chloe was taller, more confident, wearing nice clothes he could never have bought her. For a moment he felt proud seeing her well taken care of. For another he felt pain that he wasn't the one who provided it. "Chloe," he called softly. She turned, and when she saw him, she seemed to get a shock. She stood still in the middle of the sidewalk, clutching her books to her chest. "Dad, Samuel." The correction hurt more than any physical blow. "Hey, honey, how are you?" I'm fine. Mom said you were back. Can I talk to you for a minute?" Chloe looked around as if afraid of being seen. "I don't know if that's a good idea." "Dad, Arthur said you might try to confuse me." "Confuse you about what?" "With lies about him, about what happened." Samuel felt anger, but he controlled it. He couldn't explode in front of the girl. "Chloe, you've known me since you were 5. Have I ever lied to you?" She hesitated, and for a moment he saw the child he used to help with homework. "No, you never lied." "Then listen to me just for 2 minutes. After that, you decide whether you want to believe me or not." Chloe looked around again, but finally agreed. 2 minutes. They sat down on a bench in the square, and Samuel chose his words carefully. "Chloe, I didn't steal Rancher Thompson's cattle. I was jailed for something I didn't do." "But Arthur saw you." "Arthur lied. He made up that story to get me out of the way and stay with your mother." "Why would he do that?" "Because he always wanted Martha, even before I was arrested. And because that way he could have both of you without the community looking down on him." Chloe shook her head, confused. "That doesn't make sense. Why would he want to hurt you?" "Because men in love sometimes do terrible things, honey. And because he knew your mother would never leave you with me if I were a criminal." "Mom said you might have changed in prison. That 2 years there might have made you different." "And what do you think? Do I seem different to you, too?" Chloe studied him carefully, as if seeing him for the first time. "You're thinner, sadder, but you don't seem dangerous." "Because I'm not dangerous, honey. I'm the same man who taught you math at the kitchen table, the same one who carried you in his arms when you were sick, the same one who cried watching you grow up." Tears began to well up in Chloe's eyes. "I missed you," she whispered. "And I missed you. Every day in prison, I thought about coming home and seeing you graduate, maybe married, giving me grandchildren." "Stop!" She stood up abruptly. "You can't talk like that. You can't make me feel guilty." "I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, Chloe. I just want you to know that I love you no matter what. But you lost the right to be my father when you were arrested. Even though I'm innocent, you say you're innocent. But you can't prove it. Not yet. But I will. And when I do, you're going to have to decide if you can forgive me for believing the lies." Chloe stared at him, tears in her eyes. "Why can't you just leave? Why do you have to make everything harder?" "Because you're my daughter, and parents don't give up on their kids. You're not my father. My father is Arthur. He gives me everything I need, takes care of Mom, treats me well, and I'm grateful to him for that. But being a father isn't just about material things, Chloe. It's about love, about shared history, about being there for the moments that matter. You weren't there when I needed you. You were in prison, because they put me there with lies." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us folks who are just starting out. Now continuing. The argument was getting too heated, and some people were starting to pay attention. Chloe noticed and got even more nervous. "I have to go. If anyone tells Arthur I talked to you, he'll be mad. He'll be mad because he knows I'm telling the truth. Goodbye, Samuel." She walked away quickly, leaving Samuel alone on the bench in the square. But something had shifted in the way she said his name. She didn't say Dad, but she also didn't say it coldly. There was something in between, a doubt that hadn't been there before. That night, at Abigail's house, Samuel told her about the encounter with Chloe. "She's confused, poor thing," said Abigail. "Imagine a girl her age. She grew up with you as her father, she loves you, but now there's another man in your place. And on top of that, they tell her you're a criminal. She's starting to doubt the story they told her. I saw it in her eyes." "And what are you going to do?" "I'm going to prove my innocence. I don't know how yet, but I will." That's when Gerald had another idea. "Samuel, have you thought about looking for that missing cattle? I mean, someone really did steal it. If it wasn't you, the real thief might have left clues. It's been 2 years, brother-in-law. What clues would be left? Not physical clues. But cattle don't just vanish into thin air. Someone sold them. Someone bought them. Someone transported them. There must be a record somewhere." The idea made sense. The next day after work, Samuel went to Thompson's ranch. The rancher was in the corral, checking on some cattle. "What do you want here?" Thompson asked dryly when he saw him. "Mr. Thompson, I want to prove my innocence. Can I ask you a few questions about the cattle that went missing?" "You've got the nerve to come to my face after what you did." "I didn't do anything. And if you give me 5 minutes, maybe I can help find out who really stole your cattle." Thompson stared at him suspiciously. 5 minutes. Spit it out. How many head exactly went missing?" 23. "And how did you find out they were gone?" "Arthur came and told me. He said he saw some strange movement in my pasture during the early morning hours." "Did he see the movement, or did he see me stealing?" "He said he saw you loading the cattle onto a truck." "What kind of truck?" "A big livestock truck. Blue." Samuel paused. He had never had access to a livestock truck, let alone a blue one. His old pickup could barely haul firewood. "Mr. Thompson, you've known me for years. Have I ever owned a big truck?" Thompson hesitated. "No. I never saw you with a big truck." "So how was I supposed to transport 23 head of cattle?" "You could have rented one, borrowed one." "From who? Who in this area would lend me a livestock truck to steal cattle?" Thompson scratched his head, visibly bothered by the question. "And another thing," Samuel continued. "Did you sell the meat? Did you get insurance money? How did you cover the loss?" "Arthur helped me out. I bought new cattle to replace what went missing, gave me a good price." Samuel Miller felt he had uncovered something important. He had extra cattle to sell right after the theft? He did. Said he was going to sell them anyway, that it was a lucky coincidence. A very lucky coincidence indeed. Rancher Thompson started to look uncomfortable with where the conversation was heading. "What are you trying to say?" "I'm trying to say that maybe you should look more closely into who really stole your cattle." "Are you accusing Arthur Harrison, the man who helped me?" "I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just asking questions that should have been asked 2 years ago." Thompson was silent for a long moment. "Get off my property," he finally said, "and don't come back." But Miller noticed he had planted a seed of doubt in the rancher's mind. Thompson didn't kick him out with anger, as you'd expect from someone convinced of his guilt. There was uncertainty in his voice. On the way back, Miller passed by Harrison's farm and saw something that caught his attention. In the pasture there were some cattle with a different brand from the others. He stopped and watched from a distance. The brands were clearly different, as if they had been altered recently. Some had suspicious scars, signs that the original branding had been modified. "Admiring my cattle?" came a voice behind him. Miller turned and saw Harrison approaching with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Just passing through," Miller replied. "You'd better stop passing through here. My family doesn't need any trouble." "Your family? You mean my family?" "Ex-family. Now they're my responsibility." "And you handle your responsibilities very well, don't you? First you steal Thompson's cattle, then you blame me, marry my wife, and even adopt my daughter. Congratulations on your efficiency." Harrison stepped forward, his fist clenched. "You're playing with fire, Samuel. I can turn your life into hell all over again. It can't get any worse than it already is. Yes, it can. Believe me, it can. Is that a threat? It's friendly advice. Leave this area and start your life over somewhere else. There's nothing for you here." "Yes, there is. The truth. And one day it will come out. The truth is you're a thief, trying to pin the blame on honest men. And if you keep this up, people will get sick of you." Miller realized he wouldn't get anything more from that conversation. He walked away, but not before taking one last look at the cattle with suspicious brands. That night, he told Abigail and Gerald about his discoveries. "If he altered the cattle brands," said Gerald, "he must have left traces. Those things leave scars. But how do I prove it? I can't go onto his farm without permission." "Maybe you won't have to. If he sold cattle to Thompson right after the theft, someone must have seen the transport. A cattle truck doesn't go unnoticed in a small town." "Good idea. I'll ask around." The next day, during lunch at the mechanic shop, Miller talked to Mr. Sebastian about it. "Mr. Sebastian, do you remember seeing a blue cattle truck around here about 2 years ago?" "A blue cattle truck? Let me think. Oh yes, I do remember. It came by here a few times back then. It belonged to Arthur Harrison." Miller almost choked on his food. "Harrison's?" "That's right. He had a truck like that. But he sold it not long after, said it wasn't worth keeping." "Are you sure it was his?" "I am. I even fixed some problems on it once. The engine was misfiring, if I recall." "And when was that?" Sebastian scratched his head, thoughtful. "About 2 years ago, around the time you were arrested, now that I think about it." Miller could barely contain his excitement. Finally, he had solid proof linking Harrison to the crime. "Do you remember anything else about that truck?" "I remember he brought it here one morning very early. He was nervous, in a hurry. He said he needed it fixed urgently because he was going to sell it the same day." "And did he sell it?" "He did. A buyer from out of town showed up that same afternoon, took the truck, and I never saw him again." "Do you remember the buyer's name, sir?" "No, but it should be in my old records. I can look if you want." "Please, Mr. Sebastian. This could be very important." Sebastian went to a messy file cabinet in the back of the mechanic shop and started rummaging through old papers. "Here it is," he shouted after a few minutes. "Repair of Arthur Harrison's truck. Sold the same day to Walter Taylor from Chicago." Samuel wrote down the name. It was a valuable lead, but he still needed more evidence to build a solid case. "Mr. Sebastian, can I use your phone? I want to call Chicago." "Sure, but it'll be an expensive call." "I'll pay." Samuel got Walter Taylor's number through the operator and made the call. After a few rings, a voice answered. "Hello?" "Good afternoon, Mr. Taylor. My name is Samuel Miller. Did you buy a blue cattle truck from a man named Arthur Harrison about 2 years ago?" "I did. Why?" "Do you still have the truck?" "No, I resold it a while back. Why are you asking?" "I'm investigating a cattle rustling case. Did you notice anything strange about the truck when you bought it?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Well, now that you mention it, there was a weird smell in it. Smelled of manure, like it had been hauling cattle recently. And the seller was really eager to get rid of it, gave me a price way below market." "Anything else?" "There were some cow hairs stuck to the bed floor, and some dark stains that looked like dried blood." Samuel's heart raced. These were clear pieces of evidence of cattle transport. "Did you keep any paperwork from the purchase, sir?" "I did. I've got everything filed right here." Would you be able to send me a copy? It's very important. I can try. Give me your address. Samuel gave the mechanic shop's address and thanked him. When he hung up, Sebastian was watching him curiously. Find something good? I did. Looks like our suspicion was right. And now? Now I need more proof. A witness, some documents. It's still not enough to clear my name. But it was a start. For the first time in 2 years, Samuel felt there was hope. That afternoon, on his way home from work, he found Chloe on the road. She seemed to be waiting for him. Hi, she said shyly. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? Confused. I've been thinking a lot about what you said the other day. And did you come to any conclusion? I don't know, but can I ask you something? Sure. If you were guilty, would you admit it to me? Samuel looked into her eyes, seeing the lost child that still existed behind the confused teenager. Chloe, if I were guilty, if I had really stolen that cattle, I would never have the courage to look you in the face and lie. I'd rather own up to my guilt and ask for your forgiveness than try to deceive you. And what if you're wrong about Arthur? What if he's really a good man who just wants to take care of us? If I'm wrong, I'll apologize to him publicly, and I'll leave this town for good so I don't bother you anymore. Promise? I promise. But if I'm right, if he really lied about me, will you give me a chance to be your father again? Chloe hesitated for a long moment. I think so. But it'll be hard. I like Arthur. He's kind to me. And I'm happy about that. Even if he did something bad to me, if he treats you well, that's what matters. Aren't you angry with him? I'm very angry, but I don't want you to feel bad for liking him. You're not to blame for any of this. Chloe started to cry. It's so hard, Dad. I mean, Samuel, I don't know who to believe. Believe in yourself, sweetheart, in what your heart tells you, and give it time. The truth always comes out sooner or later. And what if the truth is that you really did it? Then you'll have to learn to forgive me, and I'll have to learn to live with the consequences of my choices. But you said you're innocent. And I am. But I'm teaching you that, whatever the truth is, the love between us doesn't have to die. Chloe hugged him quickly and ran off, leaving Samuel emotional on the road. In the following days, he continued investigating discreetly. He found out that Arthur had bought several heads of cattle from distant farmers right after the theft, always paying in cash and without asking too many questions about their origin. He also learned that Arthur had gone heavily into debt to buy his farm a few years earlier and was facing financial difficulties at the time of the theft. The stolen and resold cattle likely helped him pay off his debts, but he still needed definitive proof, something that couldn't be disputed. That's when Gerald had a brilliant idea. Samuel, have you ever thought about looking into the region's veterinary records? How so? Transported cattle need health documentation. If Arthur moved stolen cattle, he might have left a trail in the official records. It was an excellent idea. Samuel went to see the veterinarian in charge of the area, Dr. Anthony, an elderly man respected in the community. Dr. Anthony, I need some information about cattle records. What kind of information? I want to know if there's any record of cattle movement from Arthur Harrison's farm about 2 years ago. Dr. Anthony looked at him suspiciously. Why do you want to know? I'm trying to prove my innocence in the case of Rancher Thompson's stolen cattle. That's confidential information, but let me see what I can do. The veterinarian went to his files and started searching. Here it is, he said after a few minutes. Cattle movement from the Harrison farm in... Interesting. What is it? There are records of 25 heads coming into Arthur's farm 2 days after Rancher Thompson's cattle theft, and there are records of 23 heads leaving in the same period. Is that normal? Not really. Cattle usually stay on the farm for at least a few months before being resold, and the dates suspiciously match the theft. Can you give me a copy of these records? Dr. Anthony hesitated. Look, officially I can't. But if you bring the proper authorities, I can show everything. What authorities? A sheriff, a district attorney, someone with official investigative power. Samuel realized it was time to make his findings official. He gathered all the evidence he could: Mr. Sebastian's testimony about the truck, Walter Taylor's documents, the information about Thompson's cattle and the veterinary records, and went to the city police station. The sheriff was a young man, new to the area, who didn't know the case details. "Sheriff, I'd like to reopen my case. I have evidence that I was falsely accused." The sheriff listened to his story and examined the evidence carefully. "These are interesting leads," he admitted, "but I need to investigate officially to determine if there's grounds to reopen the case." "Are you going to investigate?" "I am. But I want to warn you, if your accusations turn out to be false, you could face charges for slander and defamation. I understand the risk, but I trust the truth." In the following days, the sheriff began a discreet investigation. He talked to Mr. Sebastian, to Walter Taylor on the phone, to Dr. Anthony, and even to rancher Thompson. Arthur, upon learning of the investigation, became visibly nervous. He found Samuel at the mechanic shop one afternoon, trying to seem calm, but his eyes revealing desperation. "Samuel, we need to talk." "About what?" "About this nonsense you're pulling at the police station." "It's not nonsense, it's a search for the truth. The truth is, you're a thief trying to weasel out of the blame. If that's the truth, why are you scared of the investigation?" "I'm not scared. I just don't want to see an innocent man get slandered." "How noble of you. Too bad you didn't think of that when you slandered me 2 years ago." Arthur moved closer, lowering his voice. "Listen, Samuel, I'll make you an offer. Drop this investigation, and I'll give you enough money to start over somewhere else. Far from here." "How much?" "Enough for you to buy a small property, a car, have a decent life. And in return, you disappear from this area and never come back. Leave my family alone." "Your family? You mean my family?" "The family you lost when you decided to steal cattle." Samuel stared at him for a long moment. "You know what your offer tells me, Arthur. It tells me you're real scared of what the investigation might find." "I'm not scared of anything. I just want to spare Martha and Chloe any more suffering." "If you want to spare them suffering, just confess what you did. It'll be less painful than when the truth comes out by force." "The truth already came out 2 years ago. You were tried and convicted." "For a crime you committed." Arthur lost his temper and grabbed Samuel by the arm. "Listen here, you miserable bastard. You can investigate all you want, but you won't be able to prove a thing. And if you keep pestering me, I can do worse things than I already have." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." Samuel broke free from his grip with force. "Touch me again and see what happens. I may have gotten out of jail, but I didn't come out stupid." Arthur backed off, realizing he had shown too much of his true intentions. "You're going to regret messing with me," he said before leaving. But his threats only confirmed to Samuel that he was on the right track. A week later, the chief of police called him to the station. "Samuel, I need to tell you the results of the investigation." Samuel's heart raced. "What did you find out, sir?" "I found that your suspicions have merit. The evidence strongly points to Arthur Harrison's involvement in the cattle theft." Samuel felt his legs go weak with relief. "Does that mean I'll be cleared?" "It means we're going to officially reopen your case and investigate Arthur. But I have to warn you, he might try to make things difficult. A man with his standing has resources to defend himself." "I understand, but at least now the truth is starting to come out. There's one more thing. We'll need your detailed statement on everything you found. And you'll have to testify if the case goes to trial." "Of course, I'll do anything to clear my name." That same day, news of the case being reopened began to spread through the small community. Reactions were mixed. Some were surprised, others suspicious, and a few relieved that they could finally speak their minds. Silas, the neighbor who first told him about Martha's wedding, showed up at the mechanic shop late in the afternoon. "Samuel, is it true they're going to investigate Arthur?" "It's true." "Thank God. I always had my doubts about that story, but I never had the guts to speak up. Why didn't you have the guts? You know how it is in a small town. Speaking out against a powerful man is dangerous, but now that you've brought evidence... So now you've got the courage to tell the truth?" "I do. And I can tell you something important." "What?" "On the night of the theft, I heard a truck passing by real early on the road. the sound of a heavy engine, the kind used to haul cattle. It was coming from the direction of Thompson's ranch and heading toward Arthur's place. Why didn't you say this before? Who would believe me over Arthur's word? And I wasn't sure what I'd heard. But are you sure now? I am. And if I have to, I'll testify to it in court. It was another piece falling into place in the puzzle. Samuel thanked him and asked Silas to look for the sheriff and officially give his account of events. That night, at Abigail's house, the family quietly celebrated Samuel's first real victory. "I'm proud of you, brother," said Abigail. "You didn't give up even when everything seemed lost." "It's not over yet," Samuel replied. "Now comes the hardest part, proving his guilt for good and getting my family back. Do you think Martha will come back to you when the truth comes out?" "I don't know, and I don't know if I want her to. What she did, it's hard to forgive." "And Chloe?" "Chloe is different. She's my daughter, no matter what. I'll always fight for her." "And what if she chooses to stay with Arthur even after learning the truth?" Samuel sighed deeply. "Then I'll accept her choice. But at least she'll know I'm innocent and that I never stopped fighting for our family." The next day, a surprise waited for him at the mechanic shop. Chloe was there talking to Mr. Sebastian. "Dad," she said when she saw him arrive. She had called him Dad, for the first time since he'd gotten out of prison. "Hey, sweetheart, what are you doing here? I wanted to talk to you. Mr. Sebastian told me about the blue truck." Samuel looked at Mr. Sebastian, who shrugged. "The girls showed up asking about you. I figured it was best to tell the truth." "And what do you think about all this?" Samuel asked Chloe. "I think you were right. I think Arthur lied." "How do you feel knowing that?" "Confused, sad, angry. He treated me well all this time. But if he really did what you say—" "You don't have to pick sides, Chloe. You can admit he lied about me and still be grateful for the kindness he showed you." "But how could he do this? How could he tear our family apart like that?" "Sometimes people do terrible things when they're desperate for love or money." "Did Mom know?" It was the question Samuel dreaded. He didn't want to destroy his daughter's image of her mother. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Only she can answer that. I'm going to ask her." "Are you sure you're ready to hear the answer?" Chloe hesitated, but then nodded with determination. "I am. I need to know the whole truth." That afternoon, mother and daughter had a conversation that would change their relationship forever. Samuel never found out exactly what was said, but the next day Chloe showed up at the mechanic shop, with her eyes red from crying. "She knew," she said simply. Samuel felt his heart break. "What do you mean she knew?" "She knew you were innocent. She knew Arthur had lied, but she chose to believe the lie because it was more convenient." "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry." "No, Dad, you don't have to apologize. The one who needs to apologize is her, to you and to me." "What are you going to do now?" "I want to live with you." I can't look at her anymore without thinking about the lie. Samuel was torn between the joy of getting his daughter back and the sadness of seeing her hurt by her mother. "Chloe, your mother made a mistake, but she's still your mother, and she loves you, even if she made bad choices." "How can you defend her after what she did to you?" "Because holding a grudge would only hurt me, and because I don't want you to grow up with hatred in your heart. But I can't forgive her. Not yet, but someday you might. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of the hurt." Chloe hugged him, crying. "I love you, Dad. I'm sorry I doubted you." "You don't have to apologize. You only did what anyone would do in your situation." "How are we going to live? You don't make much at the mechanic shop. You don't have a house. We'll figure it out. The important thing is that we're together." Abigail offered to shelter Chloe as well, at least temporarily. The house got more crowded, but happier with the teenager's presence. Meanwhile, the investigation into Arthur was moving forward. The sheriff managed to get a court order to inspect the cattle on his ranch, and the vet confirmed that several head of cattle had altered brands. Arthur was called in to give a statement, but he showed up with a lawyer and refused to answer any questions, invoking his right to remain silent. The situation in town became tense. Arthur still had supporters, people who refused to believe he could have done something so serious, but the number of people who were beginning to question his story grew every day. That was when something unexpected happened. Martha showed up at the mechanic shop one afternoon, alone and visibly downcast. "Samuel, I need to talk to you." Mr. Sebastian, sensing the tension in the air, made up an excuse to leave and let them be alone. "What do you want, Martha?" "I want to apologize." "Apologize for what? For believing I was a thief, for marrying another man, for taking my daughter from me, or for knowing the truth and choosing the lie anyway?" Martha started crying. For everything I did to you, to Chloe, to our family." "Why did you do it? I need to understand." "Because I was scared. Scared of being alone, of not being able to take care of Chloe, of struggling to get by." "Did you think I was never coming back?" "At first I believed you would come back, but when Arthur showed up saying that something bad had happened in prison, I panicked. But you found out later it was a lie and didn't do anything to let me know." "I found out when it was too late. I was already married, had already changed my life. And Arthur said that if I told the truth to anyone, he would say I was involved in the theft too." "He blackmailed you?" "In a way, yes. He said no one would believe I didn't know anything, that they'd think I was your accomplice. And you believed him?" "I believed him because I wanted to believe, because it was easier to pretend you were guilty than to face the truth." Samuel was silent for a long time, processing those revelations. "Do you love me, Martha? Have you ever loved me?" "Of course I do. I always have. But love wasn't enough when I had to choose between you and security. And now that the truth is coming out, do you want to come back?" I don't know if I have the right to want that." "You don't." The answer was blunt and hurt them both. "Samuel, I know I was wrong. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But can't we try to start over?" "Start over? How? You chose another man, slept in his bed, built a life with him. How am I supposed to forget that?" "I can separate from Arthur. I can choose to stay with you now that I know you're innocent." "You don't understand, Martha. The problem isn't just that you chose him. The problem is that you abandoned me when I needed you most. The problem is that you knew I was innocent and didn't fight for me. But I was scared, and I was in jail, alone, humiliated, suffering. And you were here building a new life as if I had never existed." Martha was sobbing now, realizing she had permanently lost Samuel's love. "What can I do to make up for it?" "Nothing. Some things can't be fixed, Martha, but there is one thing you can do for Chloe." "What?" "Let her decide where she wants to live. If she wants to come with me, don't put up any obstacles. She's suffered enough from the lies. She's already decided. She wants to stay with you. And how do you feel about that?" "Sad. Very sad. But I understand. She has every right to be mad at me. Someday she might forgive you. Kids have bigger hearts than adults. But that depends on you showing that you've changed, that you've learned from your mistakes." "And you? Will you ever forgive me?" Samuel looked at her for a long time. He saw the woman he had loved for so many years, but he also saw the woman who had betrayed him when he needed her most. "I'm going to forgive you, Martha. I already am forgiving you, but forgiving doesn't mean coming back. Forgiving means I won't carry hatred for you in my heart. But our story is over." "Are you sure?" "I am. You broke something inside me that can't be fixed." Martha got up to leave, but stopped at the door. "Samuel, I want you to know that the happiest moments of my life were with you, and that I'll regret forever having destroyed that. I'll remember the good times too, but now I need to build a new life, without you." After she left, Samuel was alone in the mechanic shop, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. Part of him still loved Martha, but he knew there was no going back. Trust had been broken beyond repair. Mr. Sebastian returned after a while and found Samuel staring into space. "Tough conversation?" "Very, but necessary." "And now?" "Now I focus on what really matters, Chloe and my future." And what do you plan to do when all this is over? I plan to open my own shop, save up money, rent a small place, start slow. Good idea, you've got a knack for it. And I want to give Chloe a good education. She's smart. She can be whatever she wants in life. She sure can. Such a clever girl. In the following days, the investigation into Arthur came to an end. The evidence was overwhelming. The truck, the veterinary records, the tampered cattle brands, the testimonies from several people. The police chief called him in again. Samuel, I've got good news. The court accepted the request to review your case. You'll be officially exonerated. And Arthur, he'll be charged with perjury, embezzlement, and criminal conspiracy. He could face a heavy sentence. Criminal conspiracy? We found out he didn't act alone. He had an accomplice who helped alter the cattle brands and transport the stolen livestock. Who? An employee from his ranch. He's already confessed everything in exchange for a lighter sentence. Samuel felt a strange sensation. It wasn't exactly happiness seeing Arthur punished, but a deep relief seeing justice being done. When will my official exoneration come through? In a few days. It'll be published in the public records, and you'll receive all the supporting documents. And can I request compensation for damages? You can and you should. You lost 2 years of your life unjustly. You're entitled to compensation. It was surreal to think that after so much suffering, there was finally light at the end of the tunnel. On the way back home, Samuel passed by where his old property used to be. The landslide was still there, but now he saw it with different eyes. It really had been a blessing to be in prison that night. If he'd been home, he might have been buried along with his belongings. That's when he had a revelation. Maybe that whole terrible ordeal had served a greater purpose. If it hadn't been for the wrongful imprisonment, he never would have discovered Martha's true character. If it hadn't been for the landslide, he never would have realized that material possessions aren't the most important thing. If it hadn't been for all the suffering, he never would have developed the inner strength he now had. "Thank you," he murmured, looking up at the sky. He didn't know if he was thanking God, fate, or life itself, but he felt gratitude for having survived it all. When he got home, he found Chloe studying at the kitchen table, with Abigail helping with her homework. "Dad!" she shouted when she saw him. "How did it go at the police station?" "Very well, my daughter. In a few days I'll be officially exonerated." Chloe jumped into his arms, crying with joy. "I knew it. I always knew you were innocent." "Not always," he corrected her gently. "You had doubts, and that's okay. It was natural to doubt, given the evidence they had against me. But now everyone will know the truth." "Yes, they will. And you won't have to put up with people making comments about your ex-con father anymore. I never cared about that," she lied, trying to look strong. "I know you did, and that's okay. It's all over now." That night, Abigail made a special dinner to celebrate. It was a simple meal, but served with a lot of love. For the first time in years, Samuel felt truly at peace. "Brother," Abigail said during supper, "can I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "Do you still love Martha?" Samuel chewed slowly, thinking about his answer. "A part of me will always love the woman she was, but the woman she's become, that one I can't love. I understand the difference. It's like she died for me when she chose to believe the lie. The person I talk to today is someone else, who happens to have the face of the woman I loved. And do you think you could love someone else in the future? I don't know. It's still too fresh, too painful. But maybe someday, when my heart is healed. You deserve to be happy, brother. I'm already happy. I have my daughter back, my innocence proven, an honest job and a family that believes in me. What more could I want? A partner to share all that with. If God wills it, one will come along. If not, I'll live well on my own." Chloe, who had been listening to the conversation in silence, suddenly spoke up. "Dad, can I tell you something?" "Sure, sweetheart. I always hoped you and Mom would get back together, but now I understand that some things can't be fixed." That's a hard lesson to learn, but an important one. "And you know what? I'd rather have you alone and at peace than with her and suffering." "Thank you, sweetheart. That means a lot to me. Are we going to be happy, just the two of us? We are. And who knows, maybe someday our family will grow again in a different way. What do you mean? When you get married, I'll gain a son-in-law. When you have kids, I'll be a grandpa. Life always finds new ways to bring happiness. Chloe smiled, imagining the future that lay ahead of them. A week later, Samuel's exoneration was officially published in the public records. The news spread quickly through town, causing mixed reactions. Some came to apologize for how they had treated him. Others simply started greeting him on the street, as if they had never doubted him. And there were those who continued to treat him coldly, unable to admit they had misjudged him. Silas was one of the first to seek him out. "Samuel, I want to apologize for not supporting you when you needed it most." "You don't have to apologize, Silas. You were protecting your own family. Still, it was my duty as a neighbor and friend to support you. The important thing is that the truth came out in the end. And Arthur, I heard he was arrested yesterday." "Yeah, he'll answer for everything he did." "I still can't believe he did that. He seemed so honest." "The people who do the worst things are usually the ones who seem the most honest. It's the perfect camouflage." Around that same time, Samuel started getting job offers. Farmers who had once avoided him now wanted to hire him, recognizing his qualities. Rancher Thompson himself showed up at the mechanic shop one afternoon. "Samuel, I want to apologize, and I want to offer you a job on my ranch." "What kind of job?" "Manager. I need someone honest and trustworthy to take care of the cattle and the business." "And why me?" "Because you've proven you're a man of integrity. You could have held a grudge against me for believing Arthur, but you didn't. That shows character." It was a tempting offer, but Samuel had already made his decision. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Thompson, but I'm planning to open my own shop." "Are you sure I pay well?" "I'm sure. I want to build something of my own with my own hands." "I understand. If you change your mind, the offer still stands." "Thank you." With the settlement money that started coming in, Samuel rented a small shed in town and set up his mechanic shop. It was modest, but it was his. Mr. Sebastian not only supported the decision, but became his first customer, referring friends and offering valuable advice. "You'll do well," he said on opening day. "You've got skill and honesty. That's all a business needs. Thank you for everything, Mr. Sebastian. You gave me a chance when no one else would, and you made good on it. Now just keep on the right path." The shop started small but quickly gained a reputation. Customers appreciated the honest service and fair prices. Within a few months, Samuel had to hire an assistant. Chloe adapted well to their new life. She attended a public school, but she was an exemplary student. She lived with her father in a simple apartment above the shop, but she was happy. "Dad," she said one night, while they were doing homework together at the kitchen table, "can I tell you something?" "Sure." "I like our life now more than the life we had at Arthur's ranch." "Why?" "Because everything here is real. It might be simpler, but it's truly ours." "And don't you miss the comfort?" "Sometimes I do, but I'd rather have beans and rice with you than have meat every day with lies." Samuel was moved by his daughter's maturity. "You've grown so much these past months, sweetheart." "I had to, but it was worth it." "And your mother? How are things with her?" "Better. I talk to her on the phone sometimes. I think she's learning to live with the consequences of her choices." "And you? Are you learning to forgive?" "I'm trying. It's hard, but I'm trying." "That's all I can ask for." Meanwhile, Arthur's trial was approaching. He hired an expensive lawyer, but the evidence against him was irrefutable. Many people who had once supported him now abandoned him, realizing they had been deceived. Martha officially separated from him and went back to using her maiden name. She lived in a simple rented house, working as a housekeeper to support herself. It was a dramatic social fall, but necessary for her personal redemption. One day, she showed up at Samuel's shop. "I came to say goodbye," she said. "Goodbye? You're leaving?" "I am. I can't live in this town anymore. Everyone looks at me like I was Arthur's accomplice. And weren't you? Not of the crime, but I was an accomplice in the silence, and that's almost as bad. Where are you going? To the Heartland countryside. My sister found me a job on a ranch there. I'm starting from scratch. And Chloe? She's staying with you, of course. It's where she wants to be. It's where she should be. She'll miss you. I know. But maybe that's for the best. She needs distance to be able to forgive me. Maybe. Samuel, can I ask you one last thing? Go ahead. Take good care of her. And if one day she wants to visit me, don't stop her. I never would. She may not be my blood daughter, but you're her mother. That never changes. Thank you. Martha, before you go, I want you to know I forgive you. She started crying. Really? Really? I hold no grudge against you. I hope you find peace and happiness in your new life. You were always a better man than I deserved. No. I was the man you deserved when you were a better woman. Now we're different people. Yeah, we are. Go with God, Martha. You too, Samuel. She walked away without looking back, carrying only a small suitcase. It was the definite end of an era in Samuel's life. That night he told Chloe about her mother's departure. How do you feel? He asked. Sad, but also relieved. It's better for everyone. Do you want to visit her one day? Maybe. When I'm ready to forgive her completely. That might take a while. It might. But one day it'll happen. I'm sure of it. Arthur's trial finally arrived. Samuel was called to testify, and for the first time in years, he had the chance to tell his side of the story to a judge. It was a cathartic moment. All the pain, all the humiliation, all the injustice he had suffered were finally exposed and officially recognized. Arthur was sentenced to 5 years in prison for perjury, embezzlement, and criminal conspiracy. His ranch was auctioned off to pay the compensation owed to Samuel and rancher Thompson. When he left the courthouse after hearing the verdict, Samuel didn't feel joy at the conviction of the man who had destroyed his life. He only felt relief at seeing justice served. It's over, he said to Chloe, who was waiting outside. How do you feel? Free. Finally free from all of this. And now? Now we live our lives without looking back. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, feel free to hit like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us beginners. Now, continuing. In the months that followed, father and daughter settled into a calm and happy routine. The mechanic shop thrived, Chloe excelled in her studies, and they had both found an emotional balance that seemed impossible during the worst moments of the crisis. One Saturday afternoon, while organizing tools at the shop, Samuel heard a woman's voice calling, "Excuse me, are you open?" He turned and saw a woman around 40, with brown hair tied back in a ponytail, wearing simple but clean clothes. Her face bore the marks of hard work, but also a genuine smile that lit up her eyes. "Yes, I am. How can I help you?" "My name is Eleanor. I work at Mr. Theodore's ranch just across town. My pickup truck has an engine problem, and I was told you're a really good mechanic." "I'm Samuel. Let's take a look at the issue." Eleanor brought the pickup to the shop, and Samuel quickly diagnosed the problem. As he worked, they chatted naturally. "Have you been working here long?" she asked. "A few months. I opened the shop this year." "And are you enjoying it?" "Very much. It's good to work for yourself, to build something of your own." "I know the feeling. I like the independence too. I work at Mr. Theodore's ranch, but he gives me plenty of freedom to handle things my way." "Do you live on the ranch?" "I do. I have a small house there. It's simple, but it's mine." Samuel sensed there was something special about that woman, a serene strength, a transparent honesty that immediately drew him in. "There you go," he said after finishing the repair. "Go ahead and test it." Eleanor started the engine, which ran perfectly. "Perfect. How much do I owe you?" $50. "Fair enough." She paid and got ready to leave, but hesitated. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "Are you the Samuel who went through... Who had those issues with the law? Samuel stiffened a little. Even after being cleared, he still feared how people might react when they learned about his past. I am. I want you to know I always believed you were innocent. My boss, Mr. Theodore, always said you were a good man. Does Mr. Theodore know me? He does. You two went to school together as kids. Samuel vaguely remembered a skinny boy named Theodore who attended the same rural school decades ago. Oh yes, I remember him. How is he? Good, thank God. He's been a widower for 3 years, but he's running the ranch well. Eleanor hesitated again. He asked me to invite you over for lunch at my place on Sunday, if you'd like. Just me? You and your daughter, of course. I don't know. Sunday is our day off. I understand, but it would be an honor to have you both. It's been a long time since Mr. Theodore wanted to see you again, but he never had the courage to reach out. Samuel considered the invitation. It had been a long time since he'd taken part in a normal social event, like an ordinary person. All right, we'll come. Eleanor beamed radiantly. That's great. Noon sharp. The farm is... I'll find it. I know the whole area. Perfect. Sunday it is then. After she left, Samuel stood there thinking about the meeting. It wasn't exactly a romantic interest. His separation from Martha was still too fresh, but there was something about Eleanor that had sparked his curiosity. When he told Chloe about the invitation, she got excited. How cool, Dad. It's been a while since we went somewhere different. You think it's a good idea? Of course it is. You need to make new friends, meet people. What if it's a trap? What if they want to humiliate me or something? Dad, you're getting paranoid. Not everyone wants to hurt you. Chloe was right. Samuel needed to learn to trust again, to open himself up to new possibilities. On Sunday, father and daughter dressed in their best and went to Theodore's farm. It was a medium-sized property, well-maintained, with a cozy main house and several smaller buildings scattered across the land. Theodore greeted them with a warm hug. He was a robust man, grey-haired, with a face weathered by the sun and hard work, but with a sincere smile. Samuel, my childhood friend, how great to see you. Theodore, you haven't changed much, huh? And you're still the same skinny guy as always, the friend joked. Eleanor welcomed them at the front door, wearing a simple but pretty dress with a floral apron over it. So glad you came, please come in. The house was simple but cozy, tastefully decorated and very clean. It smelled of home-cooked food and fresh flowers. Eleanor made a special lunch for you all, said Theodore. She's an excellent cook. You didn't have to go to any trouble, said Samuel. Oh, it was a pleasure, Eleanor replied. It's been a while since I've had guests. During lunch, the 3 adults talked about life, the past, their dreams. Chloe quickly felt at ease, chatting animatedly with the hosts. Samuel, Theodore said at one point, I want you to know I always knew you were innocent. That whole story never made sense to anyone who really knew you. Thanks for believing in me. And now, how are things? Getting better? Slowly, but getting better. Is the mechanic shop doing well? It is. There's not much left over, but it's enough to live decently. That's what matters. Eleanor listened to the conversation in silence, but Samuel noticed she observed everything closely. There was intelligence in her eyes and a natural kindness that touched him. Eleanor, he said when Theodore went to show Chloe the property, can I ask you something? Sure. How did you end up here? It's a long story. To make it short, I got married very young to a man who was no good. I put up with violence and humiliation for 10 years. When I finally had the courage to leave, I had nothing. Mr. Theodore gave me work and a place to live when I needed it most. I see. Do you have children? No. Thank God, no. It would be even harder to start over. And now? Are you happy? I am. For the first time in my life, I feel like I have control over my own destiny. It's a good feeling. I know exactly how that is. I imagine you do. You two have been through similar situations, more or less. How so? You were betrayed by the people you trusted most. You lost everything you built. You had to start from scratch. But you managed to pick yourselves up with dignity. Samuel was impressed by her insight. You're right, I hadn't thought of it that way. Sometimes it's easier to see other people's lives than your own. When Theodore and Chloe got back from their walk, it was already starting to get dark. I need to head back, said Samuel. I have a client early tomorrow. Of course, but before you go, Theodore exchanged a knowing look with Eleanor. We wanted to make an invitation. What kind of invitation? On Friday there's a country fair at the church in town. We'd love for you two to come with us. Samuel hesitated. Public events still made him nervous. I don't know if it's a good idea. Dad, Chloe cut in. It'd be fun. We haven't been to a festival in a while. That's true, Eleanor agreed. And it'll be a chance to show the town you're a normal person, part of the community. You really think it's a good idea? We do, said Theodore. You can't hide forever. At some point you've got to get back to your social life. All right, let's go then. On the way home, Chloe was thrilled. Such nice people, Dad. I really liked them. I liked them too. And Eleanor is really friendly. She seems like a good person. She does seem that way. Did you like her? What do you mean, like her? You know what I mean. As a man liking a woman. Samuel laughed at his daughter's cleverness. She seemed interesting to me, but I'm not thinking about that kind of thing right now. Why not? Because I'm still recovering from everything that happened. It wouldn't be fair to start a relationship without being emotionally ready. But you can't be alone forever. I won't be alone. I have you. That's not the same, Dad. I'm going to grow up, get married, have my own life. You'll need a partner. God willing, I'll find someone someday, but I'm not in a hurry. Eleanor seems to like you. What makes you think that? The way she looked at you, and the questions she asked. A woman only asks certain questions when she's interested. You know too much about these things for a girl your age. I grew up fast, remember? I had to learn to watch people. It was true. Chloe had matured a lot through that whole ordeal. Sometimes Samuel forgot she was still a teenager. The week flew by, with Samuel focused on work and trying not to think too much about the Friday festival. When the day came, he was as nervous as a young man on a first date. Relax, Dad, Chloe said, watching him adjust his shirt for the 10th time. You look good. Is it really a good idea? It is. You need this. Theodore and Eleanor picked them up right on time. Eleanor looked lovely, wearing a colourful swirling skirt and a white blouse, her hair loose over her shoulders. You two look great, she said when she saw them. The festival was lively when they arrived. There were colourful banners, live music, traditional foods, and plenty of familiar faces. Samuel noticed a few curious looks, but most people greeted him normally. See? It wasn't that hard, was it? Eleanor whispered in his ear during a square dance. You were right. Thanks for encouraging me. You're welcome. Sometimes we all need a little push. They danced several songs together, chatted with other people, ate goodies, and genuinely had fun. For the first time in a long while, Samuel felt like a normal part of the community. Are you having fun? Eleanor asked during a break. A lot. I haven't had this much fun in years. That's great. You deserve happy moments. We both do. You've been through tough times too. True, but look where we are now. Look where we are. We survived, and here we are enjoying life. It's a miracle, isn't it? It is. And you know what else is a miracle? What? That we found each other. Samuel looked into her eyes and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope in love. Eleanor. You don't need to say anything right now, just feel the moment. They kept dancing, closer now, as romantic music played under the stars of the country fair night. When the festival ended, Theodore offered to take Chloe home, giving Eleanor and Samuel a chance to talk alone during the walk. Thanks for tonight, Samuel said. It's been a long time since I felt so normal. You are normal. You always were. You just needed to remember that. And you, are you happy? I am. Very happy. She stopped walking and looked at him. Samuel, can I be honest with you? Of course. Since the day I met you, I've felt something special. I can't explain it exactly, but it was like recognizing a soul similar to mine. I felt the same thing. Really? Really? But I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Of getting hurt again. Of hurting you. Of not being the man you deserve. Eleanor held his hands. Samuel, I don't want promises of forever. I don't want guarantees that it'll work out. I just want the chance to get to know you better, to build something beautiful together, one day at a time. And if it doesn't work out, then we stop and stay friends. But if we don't try, we'll never know what could have been. Samuel looked at that brave woman who had survived her own battles and still had her heart open to love. All right, he said finally. Let's try. Slowly, without rushing. But let's try. Eleanor smiled and leaned in for a soft, tender kiss, full of promises of a better future. In the months that followed, Samuel and Eleanor built a solid relationship based on mutual respect and an understanding of their past pains. She continued living on Theodore's ranch, he in his house with Chloe, but they spent weekends together getting to know each other better with every meeting. Chloe loved having Eleanor in their lives. She found in her not a replacement for her mother, but an adult friend, a confidant, someone who treated her with affection without trying to take a place that wasn't hers. Dad, Chloe said one afternoon, seeing Samuel more cheerful than usual after a date with Eleanor. Are you in love again? I think so, sweetheart. How do you feel about that? Happy. Really happy. Eleanor is a special person, and you deserve to be loved by someone special. And you? Won't you feel left out? Of course not. You'll always be my dad, whether you have a girlfriend or not. Girlfriend is a strange word for a 46-year-old man. Then call each other companions, partners, whatever you like. What matters is that you're happy together. And they were happy. Samuel discovered that mature love is different from young love. It's calmer, more secure, based on conscious choice rather than pure passion. Eleanor helped him heal wounds he didn't even know still hurt. Her patience, her understanding, and her strength inspired him to be a better version of himself. A year after they met, during a walk in the countryside on a Sunday afternoon, Eleanor asked an unexpected question. Samuel, have you ever thought about getting married again? Yes, I have. Why do you ask? Because I have a proposal for you. What kind of proposal? How about we get married? Samuel stopped walking, surprised. Are you proposing to me? I am. I know it's a bit unconventional, but we're mature people. We know what we want. And what do you want? I want to share a life with you. I want to wake up by your side every day. I want to build a home where both of you feel loved and protected. And I want the same thing, Samuel replied, moved. I accept marrying you, Eleanor. They kissed right there in the middle of the flower-filled field, sealing a commitment of love and companionship that had seemed impossible years before. The wedding was simple, held at the town church, with only close people in attendance. Theodore was the best man, Chloe was the maid of honor, Abigail and Gerald were there, as well as Mr. Sebastian and some clients from the mechanic shop who had become friends. It was a small ceremony, but full of meaning. Samuel looked at Eleanor at the altar and saw not just the woman he loved, but the symbol of a new beginning, of a second chance, of a future built on solid foundations. Do you take Eleanor as your lawful wedded wife, to love and cherish her in joy and in sorrow, in health and in sickness, until death do you part? I do. This time, when he said those words, Samuel knew exactly what they meant. They were not empty words spoken out of social obligation, but a conscious promise made to a woman who knew his flaws and strengths and had chosen to love him anyway. After the ceremony, there was a simple party in the backyard of Theodore's house. Music, homemade food, lively conversations, and plenty of joy. Dad, Chloe said during the party, I want to tell you something. What is it, my dear? I'm proud of you, of the man you've become, of how you've overcome everything you've been through. Thank you, my dear. That means everything to me. And I want to tell you that Eleanor isn't just gaining a husband, she's gaining a family, because I love her like she's my own mother. Eleanor, who had overheard the conversation, came over and hugged Chloe. And I love you like you're my own flesh and blood, she said, emotional. At that moment, Samuel realized his family was whole again. It wasn't the same family as before, it was better. It was a chosen family, built on true love, not just obligations or convenience. Eleanor moved into the house above the mechanic shop, bringing her few belongings and a lot of love. The small house got even smaller, but infinitely cozier. She also started working at the shop, handling the administrative side and customer service. Her organization and warm way with people made the business thrive even more. "We make a good team," Samuel said one night, counting the month's earnings. "We do, in everything." In everything indeed. 2 years after the wedding, Chloe graduated high school with honors. She had decided to study law, inspired by the injustice her father had suffered and her desire to help others in similar situations. "I'm proud of the woman you're becoming," Samuel said on graduation day. "I learned from the best teacher," she replied, hugging her father. "What teacher?" "Life. And you, who taught me that it's possible to come out stronger from difficulties." Chloe earned a scholarship to a university in the capital. It was a unique opportunity, but it meant moving away from her family. "Are you sure it's a good idea for me to go study far away?" she asked on the eve of her trip. "I'm absolutely sure," Samuel said. "You need to fly with your own wings, see the world, chase your dreams. But will you two be okay without me?" "We'll miss you a lot," Eleanor said, "but we'll be fine, and you can always come back whenever you want. This will always be your home, my dear. No matter where you are or what you do, you'll always have a home here with us." Chloe left for the university, carrying her parents' love and blessings. The house grew quieter, but the couple took the opportunity to rediscover their intimacy and build an even stronger life together. Over time, the shop grew so much that they had to rent the neighboring shed and hire 2 more employees. Samuel became a bit of a local legend. The man who was wrongfully imprisoned, lost everything, but managed to rebuild with dignity and prosperity. His story inspired others going through tough times. Often customers would come to the shop, not just to fix their cars, but to talk and seek advice. "How did you get through so much bad stuff?" a young man who had been unfairly fired from his job asked one day. "One thing at a time," Samuel replied. "There's no point trying to solve everything at once. You solve one problem, then another, and you always remember that every storm eventually passes. And if it doesn't? It does pass. It might take time, it might hurt a lot, but it always passes. And when it does, you find out you're stronger than you thought." 5 years after Chloe's graduation, she returned to town as a licensed attorney, specializing in human rights and criminal justice. She had dated a few guys at university, but nothing serious. "I haven't found anyone who holds a candle to my father," she joked when asked why she hadn't married yet. "You'll find someone," Samuel would say. "When the time is right, the right person will appear." And she did. During a case where she was defending a farmer wrongly accused of an environmental crime, Chloe met Caleb, an agricultural engineer working as a technical expert. He was an upright, intelligent man with the same family values she cherished. The courtship lasted 2 years before she brought him home to meet the family. "Dad, Eleanor, I want you to meet Caleb." Caleb was a 28-year-old, serious but friendly, visibly nervous to meet his girlfriend's parents. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Samuel. Chloe talks about you a lot." "I hope only good things," Samuel joked. "Only wonderful things. She's very proud of you." During dinner, Caleb talked about his work, his plans, his dreams. It was clear he genuinely loved Chloe, and that she was happy by his side. "I like him," Eleanor said after the couple went out for a walk. "Me too. He seems like a good young man. And she's radiant. I've never seen Chloe so happy. It's good to see our daughter finding love. Our daughter is right. She really has become our daughter in every way." 6 months later, Caleb proposed to Chloe during a trip they took together. She called, crying with joy, to share the news. "Dad," he proposed, and I said yes. "Congratulations, my daughter. I'm so happy for you two. You like him, don't you?" "We like him a lot. He seems to make you happy, and that's what matters to us. We want to have the ceremony here in town, if you don't mind." "Of course not. This is your home, it always will be." Chloe's wedding was the social event of the year in the small town. The whole community rallied to help, showing the respect and affection the family had earned over the years. Eleanor coordinated all the arrangements, from decorating the church to the banquet. Samuel got emotional as he walked his daughter down the aisle, remembering the 15-year-old girl he almost lost to lies and schemes. "Thank you," Chloe whispered in his ear before he left her with Caleb. "For what? For never giving up on me, for fighting for our family when everything seemed lost. I'm the one who should thank you for coming back to me. I'll always be your little girl, Dad, no matter how old I get. And I'll always be your dad, no matter where you are." The party was joyful and moving. Mr. Theodore gave a speech about friendship and overcoming hardships. Mr. Sebastian told funny stories about Samuel's early days at the mechanic shop. Abigail cried with emotion, seeing her brother so happy and fulfilled. During the newlyweds' waltz, Samuel danced with Eleanor, watching the young couple with paternal pride. "We did it," Eleanor said. "Did what?" "Raised a wonderful daughter. Gave her the example that it's possible to overcome any difficulty with love and determination. We really did. And now we enjoy our life as a couple without teenage kids at home. It'll be strange at first. It will, but it'll be good too." A year after Chloe's wedding, Eleanor shared news that would change their lives again. "Samuel, I need to tell you something." "What is it? You have a strange look on your face." "I'm pregnant." Samuel nearly dropped the coffee cup he was holding. "What do you mean pregnant? You're 45 and you're 52, so what?" "But is it possible?" "Apparently so. I've taken 3 different tests, all positive." Samuel was silent for a long moment, processing the information. "How do you feel about it?" he finally asked. "Surprised, scared, but also very happy. And you?" "The same. It wasn't in our plans, but maybe it's exactly what we needed." "A baby at 52. Lots of men have kids at that age. And you've got your health, energy, experience. And you, isn't it dangerous to get pregnant at 45? It might be more delicate, but it's not impossible. I'll get all the tests done, have all the medical care I need." Samuel got up and hugged his wife. "If you want this baby, then I want it too." "I do, very much." "Then we'll have our child." Eleanor's pregnancy was closely monitored by the doctors, but it went smoothly without major complications. Chloe was thrilled when she found out she was going to have a little brother or sister. "I can't wait to meet the baby," she said during a visit. "And we can't wait to meet our grandchild," Samuel joked. "What do you mean, grandchild? You're pregnant too, aren't you?" Chloe laughed and exchanged a knowing look with Caleb. "Actually, I am." The house erupted in shouts of joy. 2 simultaneous pregnancies in the family were an unexpected blessing. "Our kids are going to grow up together, like cousins who are siblings," said Martha, emotional. "It's going to be beautiful to see the next generation of the family growing up close." The 2 babies were born just a month apart. Martha had a girl, Lily, and Chloe had a boy, Ethan. The cousins became inseparable from an early age, growing up like true siblings. At 53, Samuel discovered the joys and challenges of being a father again. This time, though, he was a more mature father, more patient, more present. "It's different having a child at this age," he remarked to Theodore while watching Lily play in the backyard. "How so?" "When Chloe was little, I was always worried about work, money, the future. Now I've got more time to enjoy every moment. And you've got more wisdom too." "I hope so. At least I've got more patience." Lily grew up in a house full of love and stability. She never experienced conflict, betrayal, or instability. To her, family was always synonymous with safety and happiness. When she turned 5, she asked an innocent question that touched Samuel deeply. "Daddy, why are some people sad?" "Why are you asking that, my dear?" "Because yesterday I saw a man crying on the street. Why was he sad?" Samuel thought carefully about the answer. "Sometimes people go through hard times in life. They lose people they love, lose their jobs, have health problems. And how do they get happy again? With time, patience, and the love of the people who care about them. Like you did." "What do you mean?" "Mommy told me you were very sad before I was born, but then you got happy." "That's true. Daddy went through some very tough times, but the love of the family helped me get happy again. And now you'll never be sad again? I might get sad sometimes, my dear. That's normal. But I know I'll always have you all to help me get happy again. Lily hugged him tightly. I'll always take care of you, Daddy. And I'll always take care of you, Princess. At that moment, Samuel realized his life had come full circle in a way he could never have imagined. The innocent child in his arms represented not just a new love, but proof that it's possible to completely rebuild a ruined existence. At 60, Samuel was a prosperous and respected man. His mechanic shop had become the biggest in the area, employing 8 people. Chloe was a well-known lawyer and human rights advocate. Ethan and Lily grew up healthy and happy. Martha, at 55, remained the strong and affectionate woman who had won him over years ago. Together, they had built not just a solid marriage, but a legacy of love and overcoming hardship. One afternoon, while watching Ethan and Lily play in the backyard with Theodore's grandchildren, Samuel reflected on his journey. 20 years ago, he was leaving prison with nothing. No home, no family, no hope. Today, I had a united family, a thriving business, the respect of the community, and most importantly, inner peace. "What are you thinking about?" asked Eleanor, sitting down next to him on the porch. "I'm thinking about how surprising life is." "How so?" "If someone had told me on that day I got out of jail that I'd be here like this now, happy, surrounded by love, I'd have said it was impossible." "And what brought you here?" "First, you. Then, the determination not to give up. And mainly, the understanding that sometimes the worst things that happen to us are actually an escape from even worse things." "Do you really believe that?" "I do. If I hadn't been arrested, I would have been home the night of the landslide. I could have been buried alive. That's an interesting way to look at things. And if I hadn't lost Martha, I never would have found you. And our life together is so much better than any life I could have had with her. Don't you feel any more resentment toward her?" "I don't. Actually, I'm even grateful to her." "Grateful?" "For setting me free to find you, for forcing me to discover my own strength, for teaching me the difference between true love and emotional dependence." Eleanor held his hand. "I'm also grateful for everything that happened. If it weren't for my bad marriage, I never would have learned to value a good man like you. We're 2 survivors who found each other." "We are, and we built something beautiful together." At that moment, Lily ran up to them. "Daddy, Mommy, come play with us." "We're coming, Princess," said Samuel, standing up. "Just a few more minutes," Eleanor asked. "I want to enjoy this moment." "What moment?" "This, here now with you and our family. It's perfect." Samuel looked around, the simple but comfortable house, the lively yard, the children playing, his wife by his side. It was truly perfect. "You know what amazes me the most?" he said. "What?" "How we managed to turn so much pain into so much joy. We didn't turn it. We put the pain in a drawer and built the joy on top of it. And now we live one day at a time, grateful for everything we have. And in the future, we'll grow old together, watch our children grow up, meet our grandchildren, and maybe tell our story to anyone who needs hope. Our story. It's a beautiful story, isn't it? It is. A story of deliverance, overcoming, and love. A story that proves it's never too late to start over. And that proves that sometimes what seems like the end is just the beginning of something better." Lily ran back, impatient. "Are you going to stand there talking all day?" "No, my dear," said Samuel, standing up and reaching out his hand to Eleanor. "We're going to live." And that's what they did. They lived fully in every moment, knowing they had earned that happiness through much struggle and suffering. Gradually, the afternoon came to an end. The children were called in for dinner. Eleanor set the table, and Samuel stayed a few minutes alone on the porch, watching the sunset. He thought of Arthur, who had served his sentence and gotten out of prison years ago, moving to another state. He thought of Martha, who had rebuilt her life in the countryside of the heartland, and according to what he'd heard through Chloe, had become a better person. He thought of all the people who had doubted him and later apologized. He held no grudge against anyone. Time had healed all wounds and shown that every experience, no matter how painful, had helped shape him into the man he was today. "Dinner's ready," Eleanor called from the kitchen. "Coming," he replied. Before going inside, he looked once more at the horizon and murmured, "Thank you for everything." Then he joined his family for another ordinary meal of an extraordinarily happy life. The end. Now tell us, what did you think of this story of overcoming? Do you believe Samuel made the right choices? How would you react if you went through a similar situation? Leave your opinion in the comments. We really want to know what you think. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional stories like this one. Thank you so much for sticking with us so far.